now they're saying that that planet Theia that crashed with us, that some of the water is contained deep in the earth and it comes out with volcanoes. Water's old. Water is older than humanity. Yeah. This water has remained stable for over 4 billion years, the volume of the water in Earth. So when we pollute it, when organizations pollute it, government, business, whatever, that really changes the ability of us to survive as a species. First of all, I love the both of you for doing this. Well, I got a story to tell you this morning. I find it mind-blowing myself. The most ancient story of water on the planet Earth. This is a wild story, and I just want to get started. Water's as old as the universe. We're kind of late arrivals, and then we created businesses, privatizing and commodifying, wrapping everything in plastic. How old is water on Earth? There's geological evidence that messes with the time frame here. One story is that water existed on Earth 3.8 billion years. After the Earth formed, water all evaporated, and because it was all molten. But a new story is water is 4.4 billion years old, and that's what I want to get at today. Earth's water may even be older than the sun itself and the entire solar system. Water, one story candidate, is it was incorporated into the newly forming planets throughout the Milky Way and galaxy and beyond. If water in the early solar system was primarily inherited as from interstellar space, that means it would come from either other solar systems or somewhere else in our solar system than planet Earth, then it is likely that similar ice water, along with prebiotic organic matter that they contain, are abundant in most or all protoplanetary disks. So those are cloud formations of rocks and water that float around. I just think that's really exciting. So let's put some dates on all this. So the universe, the current theory is it's 13.8 billion years old. The Milky Way is a little younger, 13.6 billion years old. The sun is kind of an infant, 4.5 billion years old. Now the Earth formed in the inner circle of the solar system about the same time as the sun. So it's dated at about 4.5 billion years old. The second story we're going to tell now is the moon was formed 95 million years after the birth of the solar system and after the Earth. So there's a giant impact called the Big Splash as planet Theia does its thing. And the Luna, the moon, is formed by a collision by this size of proto-Earth and a Mars-sized planet Simeo called Theia, meaning it has water in it and rocks, approximately 4.4 billion years ago. This is the latest science. Stephen Morrissey at University of Colorado, of course, has a counter narrative, and he's a geologist, and he's very skeptical about this theory. So it's extremely difficult to move an object from the outer solar system to the inner solar system. So the object of the size of Theia, which is kind of as big as Mars or something, would have greatly perturbed the orbit and some kind of push so the gravity takes over and you accelerate it towards the sun. It's unclear how this would happen. So his own research says that it comes from the inner solar system, not the outer solar system. I'm sorry, but most people are believing the grand narrative and not the counter narrative at this point, but it is interesting. Now here's kind of a depiction of the second story of how the Earth is impacted by the planet Theia and its ice water. And then the disk of debris forms and it coalesces into the moon. So it's a counter theory to the idea that the Earth formed and you had water and the moon was there. And I've seen other stories I'm not going to get into, but the extraterrestrial people think that the moon was moved over here from another solar system. So roughly 13.7, 13.4 billion years ago, you have the universe formed and the sun and our solar system, et cetera, et cetera. It's exciting that the Big Bang Theory maybe isn't the explanation we want to look for in our storytelling of water. So what's happening is interstellar water can be spotted now by the modern telescopes by the brightness of it, and they can tell the water content in other solar systems, and they have wavelengths that they can measure. Now, a new storytelling candidate is come about. When Theia came, what happened is it formed the Earth's core. It melted and formed the Earth's core of Gaia. And then there a cloud, naturally a big cloud formed, and this cloud kept the water from melting off the planet. So as much as 40 to 60% of the ocean water on the Earth today is from this collision. So the first few million years of its existence, the solar system was split into a dry inner region and a wet outer region. The asteroid belt lies between Mars and Jupiter. So the one theory is that Theia came from that asteroid belt, the second biggest planet out there, and had a gravitational pull and brought its watery content to Earth and its rock content and made the Earth again, renewed the Earth, would have combined with the existing lava rock and made this Earth core we have now. Let's talk about rocks. Researchers have confirmed that this crystal on the planet Earth is 4.375 billion years old and is the oldest rock found so far on planet Earth. So they're able to date the rock, and these kind of crystals would carry water. Other kinds of rock, the oldest dated rocks in Canada, are Casta River. This sample is 4.03 billion years old. So you can learn a lot about a rock. A sample of pillow basalt, I guess you'd say, a rock formed during the underwater eruption, was recovered from the Isua Greenstone Belt and provides evidence that water existed on Earth 3.8 billion years ago. So when you drink that glass of water, know that it's 3 to 4 billion years old. It's old. Basalt, I guess you'd say, a rock formed during the underwater eruption, was recovered from the Isua Greenstone Belt and provides evidence that water existed on Earth 3.8 billion years ago. So when you drink that glass of water, it's got wisdom. So for indigenous culture, it's not just about native science, it's about the wisdom of the rocks. Let's just date this so we can deal with the human-centric viewpoint. Well, the formation of the Earth, core formation, the moon formation, says 4.56, now they're saying 4.4 billion. You have zircon, you have the water coming to the Earth, the early fossils tell you dates of the earliest forms of life on Earth. The rise of the atmospheric oxygen doesn't come for quite a long time. And then you have your shelled animals, your aquatic life. That's why I really like the pond so much. Dinosaurs, and then humans. Humans are not first, but that seems obvious point to me. Essentially, we've got water 4.4 billion years old, and we're taking care of it. Now, other interstellar water will join us from other solar systems that's much older, but not older than 4.7 billion years, the age of the universe, 4.8, depending on your theory. The thing of care, having a heart of care, is to be caring for the water because the water cares for you. I think that's a very feminine Gaia idea, the idea that we're going to charge for the water and we're going to control it with pricing and commodification and privatization schemes like the United Nations is co-opted to do by the Washington Consensus, because that's what the Academy of Management tells them to do. Well, there's a problem there in those two vibrations. If we really believe that water is billions of years old and has been there for us since humanity stepped onto the earth, we really ought to take a better care of it, you know? Rocks actually recycle. Yes, they do. How do they recycle? Well, it's from the water, it's from the weathering, it's from the heat of the sun, it's from all kinds of things. The magma, your volcanic rock, is melted from a metamorphic rock, a sedimentary rock, sediment, that's kind of loose stuff, igneous rock. So let's look at just a couple of these examples. First, I want to tell you about Boji Stones. Now, Boji Stones are very important to our storytelling. I happen to have a pair of them right here. Now, one has a male energy. You can guess which one. And one has a female energy. So the spelling is just a little bit different, but I think they named them after my family tree, but that's just me. So if you hold the male rock in one hand and the female rock in the other hand, you can get the Gaia energy flowing through your body. And this is called embodiment. So let's talk science. Volcanic rock, that's what you would have had in the early formation after Big Bang. And it would have been molten. The whole planet would have been molten for millions and millions of years. But molten rock is ancient and important. And on my trips to the pond, I collect the molten rock. Now, this is for Duncan. This is my rock that I use for divination. And on the center, it has a bear. There's also a dragon. There's also Thea planet. And I started doing divination with this rock in the shamanic drumming that you both come to. So to get started in my mystical part, if you notice that this has some brown in it, well, that's iron content. Now, when this was originally buried in the earth for millions of years, it creates a magnetism, and you could actually rub a compass on this and it would change the direction of the compass. Now, over the course of the history of this earth, and we're doing storytelling of planet Gaia now, the poles shifted several times, and that would change the magnetic field. So if the rocks emerge from the earth and they're recycling and they're laying there millions of years, they're going to have that polarity. Even as the earth changes its polarity, it'll keep that original polarity. So this is how scientists are able to figure out some of what's happened in the earth by this rock that I found in the desert here.
I was laughing when you were talking about how old water was. I remember when I was a little boy, I was maybe 12. I used to walk this lady's dog in the neighborhood. And she told me that her boyfriend went on a cruise to Antarctica. And one of the skippers, I guess, had gone off into the ice shelf and had chipped off some of the Antarctic ice and put in a little tube for him and gave it to him and told him that that water was older than Jesus. And I remember as a little boy, I said, but isn't all water older than Jesus?
There's also the shamanic divination of rock that we believe in sacred space by putting these stones here in the shape of a cross, and they're just bits of concrete left around. The burn pile disappeared and has not been back since for, I'd say, over 2.5 weeks. Nobody even fired firecrackers in this space. Now, there is a story to tell this morning, but I found this snake that was murdered here at the pond this morning. It's a bull snake. It's not a rattlesnake. And I hid the head under the heartstone so you wouldn't see the obliterated by the bullets. And it had a bit of a burial symbol. So I just think it's kind of cruel for people to violate the law. And it is against the law to go out and hunt an animal on state land or just about any other land without a hunting license and not in a hunting season. I'm sorry, but these snakes are actually very, very important to the life cycle of everything around us. So you don't need to shoot them because they have no rattler and they're not going to bite you. As you know, I was a little distressed yesterday to learn that in the state of New Mexico, it's all about profit, that whatever party you've elected, Democrat or Republican, they are selling land leases to drill for oil and gas and minerals. Mineral rights are sold separately, and people buy the mineral rights and oil and gas rights. And I'm sorry, if you have private land or something, you're going to lose it to those rights. And we want to lease that pond we showed you just now so we can protect the pond. And he said, well, yeah, maybe for a while until we get a development bid from a developer, and then we have to give the land to them because they can pay more money for it, you see. And it's all about the money. It's got nothing to do with life. It's about the money. I'm going like, okay, if you destroy all the rocks and the water sources of the place, then how are you going to have life there? How are you going to live there? What kind of business? How long is your business going to last?